Hello, hello. I love snow falling upwards.
The snow is great. It's the music that cracks me up. It's like Lifetime drama. Some major revelation just happened.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I feel
Parents
like
are not happy.
I feel like the snow falling upwards is appropriate because I'm in the middle of the polar vortex here in New York. Although Patrick, did you get any of this weather that we're dealing with, or?
I'll send you a picture post show of my entire street covered with 3 inches of ice because they don't really plow here in St. Louis for the side streets, except for the mayor's dad's block.
Of course, right? Yeah. I shouldn't complain because Clinton, our perfect attendance audience member, shared that he's in Indianapolis with currently -3 Fahrenheit, which isn't as bad here in New York. I think currently it's 18 here. So I can't complain.
I thought I was freezing at like 2 degrees this morning until I found out it was -20 where my boss lives up in Michigan. It's like,
yeah, this has
Keep
been
a
rough weather week for sure. But
Tell me about it. It's 61 degrees outside here. It's San Jose.
You son of a.
I almost didn't say it.
You had to wear a shirt, Jason.
I know. Basically, tomorrow it's 66, so I'm going topless tomorrow. That's it.
Well, I am headed to sunny Riverside, California tomorrow for the national, not national, but the World Championship pinball tournament this weekend. So I did look at the weather, and it was like, I said, okay, gee, what's the weather in Riverside this week? And it's like, it'll be 70 degrees tomorrow. And I was like, yes. So, but my biggest complaint about that is that now I need to. So I'm getting up at 5 a.m. I'm taking the train, and Patrick, you'll appreciate this. I'm taking the Long Island Railroad to Jamaica at 5:52, and I get the air train to JFK to then get to the airport, and it's gonna be like 10 degrees because polar vortex. So I have to bring my heavy jacket, and then I need to bring that with me everywhere in California for the next 6 days.
Well, if you can get by with one of those down coats that you can like scrunch up and use as a pillow on the plane.
Yeah, I need to get one of those.
Suffer.
I need to get one of a suffer. I could suffer. I could just wear my gas station jacket and my hoodie and do the San Francisco cold weather outfit where you put a jacket over the hoodie, right?
Right. Oh, totally.
But yeah, I guess it could be worse. But Jason, I will be joining you in California next week, or this week. So
well, you'll enjoy the weather while you're here.
Yeah. And I'll be missing next week's show because I will be on the red eye back home. So I'll be flying Tuesday night. So
right.
So I hope that you're around, Jason.
Oh yeah, I'm around next week, but I'm realizing I should probably find a guest because both you and Win are out.
Yeah. So it'll be Michelle and Michelle's going to be on next week. So Michelle's missing tonight, but he'll be back next week. So all right, well, we got a big show. So why don't we? Should we get on with it? Should we do it?
Yeah. Is my bandwidth holding up? By the way, like, is it solid?
I think so.
It's not doing any. Weird
I don't know. Yeah, everybody in the audience, does Jason look and sound good?
I mean, you'd see it too at this point.
I know, but I haven't seen anything. So.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yay.
Yep. Yay.
Hotel Wi-Fi. You just never know.
Yep.
Trixie.
Yeah. Never know what you're gonna get. Yay.
All right. All right. Cool. All right, looks good. All right, Patrick, I'm going to move you down off stage, so we'll bring you back in a moment. And then I'm going to stop my camera, but Jason, you can still hear me, correct?
Yep, I can hear you.
Great. And I'm going to cover up your beautiful face.
Okay.
All right. All right, let me turn off looping. All right, let's do it.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Android Faithful, your weekly source for the latest news, hardware, and apps for the world of Android. I am one of your hosts, Jason Howell.
And I am your other host, Ron Richards. And Jason, you appear to be joining us from an undisclosed location.
Oh, this is my new studio. It's fashioned after a hotel room. I figured that would be kind of unique, right? Like no one ever develops and designs a new studio that looks like a hotel room.
It's a good idea. It's very serene artwork behind you, and for our audio listeners, Jason is in a hotel room with it looks as if like wave. Is that like water art or what is that?
It is. I am surrounded by some pretty relaxing artwork.
Nice.
It's not a bad corner to have behind me. As far as hotel rooms go, it could be a lot worse.
Not too bad. Well, we don't want to disclose your location, but it is Samsung Galaxy Unpacked Eve. So could you possibly be somewhere near Samsung?
It sounds like yes. I think it's no secret that I am going to Samsung Unpacked tomorrow, and this will be my first time actually attending, not virtually. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, good, excellent. Well, and so Mashal will be. So Win is out on vacation for a couple of weeks. Mashal is joining you at Samsung Galaxy Unpacked, but he couldn't be with us tonight. So we thought we would bring in one of our favorite special guests of the show, Mr. Patrick Norton. Welcome.
What's up? Patrick is muted. Oh, okay.
I was unmuting.
Okay.
I'm so used to one excellent hotel room. The last hotel room I podcasted from was in downtown Las Vegas, and the walls looked like, usually you're in a hotel, you're like, oh yeah, Motel 6, they're trying to make us hide dirt, trying to hide blood. It was this like 1970s wallpaper from hell.
Oh, God.
So I'm digging the serenity. It doesn't look like a Serrano's bad day in the background.
Totally. I feel very comfortable right now and not surrounded by death, so that's good.
It's a big plus.
Yeah.
Congrats.
So it is good not to be surrounded by death. It is good to be surrounded by friends. Patrick, I was telling you in our before we went live that you've been requested by several members of our audience to come on the show, and the fact that we've been doing the show for over a year and a half now, I feel we've been deficient in not having you on sooner. So thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. I'm also really curious to see what Samsung comes out with tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm also laughing because there's a couple names on the list today. I'm like, oh, they're still making phones, and you can buy them in the United States, or is this a global program?
We take the global view. The world of Android shows no country allegiance, thankfully. So, well, we are going to talk. We are going to talk about Samsung Galaxy Unpacked, but first we got some news to get through, and so let's do that. And this first story just gave me a chuckle. It just gave me a laugh because recently Microsoft founder Bill Gates went on record and was explaining that he felt as if one of his biggest regrets within Microsoft was the fact that they were unable to do what Android did and have Microsoft become the de facto competitor to Apple. And it was very amusing because that response. That statement yielded a response from Rich Miner, who is some folks might know is the co-founder or co-creator of Android, where he posted online, "I literally helped create Android to prevent Microsoft from controlling the phone the way they did the PC, stifling innovation. So it's always funny for me to hear Bill Gates whine about losing mobile to Android." And he couldn't leave it at that. That he followed that post. Tears. He followed that post up with, "I helped Orange launch the first Windows mobile phone in 2002, the SPV. I worried Microsoft might end up controlling mobile like they did this PC. I wanted something more open. So sorry, Bill, you're more responsible for losing the $400 billion than you realize." It's been a while since we've had some cattiness about the history of Android.
Right? This is serious cattiness going on here.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in the Teams environment at my current place of work, and moving back to a place that's Windows centric reminds me of everything I hate about the way Microsoft does everything. And I keep thinking, I read that quote from Bill, and I'm like, Bill, did you not pay attention while you were using the phone? Surely you must be self-aware. Maybe not even at this point willing to admit that they could have done a vastly better job with a mobile interface. But
he's Bill Gates then say, "Don't call me Shirley."
So the quote from Bill Gates was, in the software world, in particular for platforms, these are winner-take-all markets. So the greatest mistake ever is the whatever mismanagement I engaged in that caused Microsoft not to be what Android is, meaning Android is the standard non-Apple phone form platform. That was a natural thing for Microsoft to win. and he estimated that mistake cost them $400 billion.
Just because you're on top doesn't mean you will always be on top in all things, you know? I think Google is has faced a similar thing when it comes to artificial intelligence, right? Like just because it was there very early on doesn't necessarily mean it will be forever.
Or Intel on mobile processors.
Yeah, that's for sure. But could you imagine that here in 2025 there is a world where we're Windows Mobile faithful, and like we're talking about we're talking about the new, like, how cool is it you can access Explorer from your phone? Wait, we were talking about that last year, weren't we?
Did you see the news on the new Clippy update? Oh yeah, that's rad, man. Clippy AI. Yeah,
Stop,
Clippy AI.
Jason.
Sorry, but seriously, could have happened.
Not Clippy.
Alternate timeline and all.
Just you can't imagine like the 3D rendered Clippy popping up to tell you how to like open a tab and causing your entire machine to slow down in the process, because I can totally feel that.
That's how close we came.
Clippy, turn off the bedroom lights. Are you sure you don't want to turn off all your lights? Would you like to learn more?
No, I will say, and I've told this story on podcasts before in the past, and I've probably talked to both of you about this at some point. When I was at my job before I worked at Revision 3 with you, Patrick, so back in this is pre-07, so it must have been like 05 or 06, I worked for a hotel company, a very, very large hotel company, and we got flown out to Redmond as part of when Apple or Microsoft or Google want strategic partners for their stuff. So they brought us as like a hotel company, and they wanted to show us all the amazing technology they're working on. And one of them was the vision for the Microsoft Home. And what it was, they had built a house in a set, like whatever, in the office in Redmond, and they had a living room set up and a bedroom set up and a kitchen set up. And the idea was that you wore like a Star Trek communicator pin, and it tracked you through the house. And if you were watching TV on the monitor in the living room and you walked to the kitchen, it would automatically move it to the TV in the kitchen and all this sort of stuff. And it was a lot of the stuff that we talk about around home automation and things like that were, you could talk to it and tell you stuff. So they had, their R&D was in the right place. It's just the execution.
Yeah.
Or lack thereof.
You made the reservation. You got to hold the reservation.
Yeah, right.
I think that's the story. What it comes down to, execution, and unfortunately, Microsoft just never executed mobile in any way, shape, or form. Right? So
no. And when they did finally make their big play, they decided that touchscreens were going to replace mice and keyboards, and then pissed off an entire generation of Windows users in the one of the great interface UX debacles of all time. So I got nothing gracious to say at this point.
Tragic.
Yeah. Well, speaking of nothing to say,
look at
that. Just a little bit for that segue.
That's a segue.
Nothing has reached a significant milestone, it turns out, in the year 2024, doubling its annual revenue to over $500 million, passing $1 billion, billion, in lifetime sales. So they're doing all right for a kind of up and coming. I mean, still a startup, right? They were launched in 2021, so they're still reasonably young. But I guess at this point, man,
4 years,
almost 4 years old. That's kind of crazy that we've been talking about nothing for 4 years.
And like 4 phones or so, like they've had they've had multiple phones out there. I guess, and part of the story is that they're looking to raise another. Yes. They're doing another round of funding of $100 million. How did they sell $1 billion worth of phones? That's my question.
Well, India, its largest phone market, Germany, UK. So they sold 1 billion smartphones by targeting, because their smartphones, nothing phones typically are not the top of the line premium priced, $1,000 smartphones, at least here in the US.
Flagships.
They're not at that flagship tier. They're more like the $400 to $700 range, which, in some of these other markets, those more affordable brands move a lot more. And it sounds like that's what's working for them in India, Germany, and UK. A lot of phones. But here, a lot of like the audio, and I think that was kind of a surprising part of the brand that Nothing has built. It isn't just smartphones. It's also all these other accessories, and their audio accessories are actually doing pretty well. The Nothing the Nothing Ear. What is it? The Ear 1X or the ones
There's
that go over the top of the ear?
The ear, the ear A, and the ear open. The ear open. Are the ones
That's the one I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
That was super surprising to me. I expected to not really dig it because I'm used to putting things, the earbuds into my ears. But that thing totally has its place. It has its purpose, and it's designed really well. It sounds great. So yeah, they're doing great stuff.
Yeah. I like Nothing. It's funny because a friend of mine has a friend who is a Luddite, and he is trying to force this friend to buy a smartphone. This person's never owned a smartphone. It's 2025. They've never owned a smartphone.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so my friend is being a little selfish and forcing his friend to buy a phone because he wants to be able to communicate with him. And so he was asking me, he's like, hey, what's a really good low cost Android phone I can get this guy on? And Jason, we were talking about it this past couple of weeks after CES, that that new TCL phone that we talked about, that's $199. That's really solid. Yeah. But I also recommended the Nothing CMF1. The Nothing CMF what color, what I forgot what it stands for, but wasn't that like it's like a $199 phone. Like, it looks cool. It works great. So, like, Nothing is in a place where, you could easily order from their website and get a $200 phone that is going to be solid for someone who's not looking for a flagship, and that's a nice spot to be in. But
yeah, CMF, of course, it stands for Congressional Management Foundation. Oh no, wait, no, it stands for Chaikin Money Flow. Oh no, wait, yeah, I can't find the actual thing. Oh, Crash Modification Factor. That's what it stands for, right?
It is color, material, and finish. That's what it stands for.
There we go. That's the one that actually applies.
Patrick, have you ever seen a Nothing phone in the wild?
I have seen a Nothing phone in the wild. I have fondled a Nothing phone in the wild. I own a couple pair of the earbuds, which are actually much better than I expected.
I love my ear sticks. My ear sticks are great. I love them.
Those actually won't stay in my ears. The first generation and the second generation did great, but the sticks, I can't do this thing like AirPods will not stay in my ears.
Yeah.
Which makes it, people are always like, will you review them? I want you to talk about them. Like, okay. And then I basically have to listen to them like this. And then as soon as I pull my fingers out of my ears and stand up, they fall out. And yes, before anyone emails or tweets or anything else, excuse me, there is no add-on that will keep an Apple earbud in my skull.
Sometimes those buds just don't fit. Yeah, that's like all of our ear canals and the makeup of the ears are just a little bit different. Sometimes, I've tried some that just, like, no matter what fitting, because they always come with a different assortment of them. No matter which ones I try, I can't quite get it to fit just right.
Yeah,
it just happens.
I do. I seriously dig the whole Nothing aesthetic on the phones, though.
I do too.
And it looks like we talked about this last week. It looks like their first flagship is coming this year. So we'll be curious to see what the Nothing approach to a flagship is after, the phone 1 and the phone 2 with its LED lights and all this sort of stuff. And then after the lower cost CMF, Well,
yeah. And also, like, this article kind of points out that Nothing's plan is to push sales in the US in 2026, still continuing to focus on the international markets for this year. So that makes me wonder, like, how is that going to influence the flagship release? Is it like, why not? Why not the U.S.? But and how would next year be different if that's the case? I don't know, but nonetheless, I'm curious to see what their take on a flagship will be.
For sure. So
it'll be something. I can tell you that.
It won't be Nothing. That's for sure.
Yeah,
all the puns, the Nothing puns, just flow off the tongue.
You can't help it, and they know it too.
They do know it, right? And
yes.
and again, like Patrick said, like I love the aesthetic of them. I think that they, like they lean into their world of who they are and what they're trying to do with the birds and remember all that sort of stuff. Like, so it's So it's nice. I'm on board with it. So
it's different.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I want to take a quick moment before we get to our patron pick story, which is every week our loyal patrons over at patreon.com/AndroidFaithful help us pick a story to talk about on the show. I want to take a moment to thank a couple of patrons who are supporting us, including Ed Ramirez and Damon Kanzler. I want to thank Ed and Damon for supporting the show over at Patreon. And funny enough, Damon provided this week's Bug Droid graphic. So this has never happened before, where a patron, like we're thanking the patrons in order of signing up, and Damon emailed us this picture. I didn't use it yet, and then yesterday when I was posting the patron pick, I'm like, oh, I'll use that cool Bug Droid reading the news. And then today I was pulling, what patron are you thanking? Oh, I'm thanking Damon. It was kismet. So there it is. So for our audio listeners, Damon sent in a AI generated Bug Droid sitting with a cup of coffee reading the Android News newspaper, because AI can't quite get words right. Although it got Android right, it didn't get news right.
I was going to say this one can't. Yeah. A lot of them can now.
So, but yeah, so the patrons had 3 stories to choose from this week for them to vote on. The one that got the least amount of votes, with 15% of the vote, was these could be Samsung's next rugged and sub-flagship tablets. I was very disappointed you all didn't want to talk about rugged tablets from Samsung. And then 30% of the vote went to the story that Google is upping Gemini's skills by partnering with the Associated Press, to give you a little more validated news source from Gemini, because I guess there have been some hallucinations. But our number one story that got the majority of the vote, with 55% of the vote from the patrons, was that Google Home is working on AI Insights, a new UI for creating routines, and more. And it came from our friends over at Android Authority through one of their APK teardowns. And it basically is explaining the fact that Google is starting to make some changes to the Home app on Android, and they're folding in AI-powered insights into that. They would allow you, they're doing a complete redesign of the UI that allows you to do that, and then allows you to make adjustments and get insights folded into your routines at home. And so, some of the examples they showed was the fact that, AI will tell you that the temperature outside is currently 60 degrees and will drop to 48 degrees. If anybody's home, you might want to adjust the thermostat. Which kind of feels like somebody nagging you, but then the AI is picking up the fact that you saying, I've noticed you constantly activate your home routine upon arrival. You might consider automating this routine to save time and effort in the future. So AI is going to get all up in the home action to give you suggestions and help better automate your home through the app. And this is just the continued AI-ification of Google services, right? I mean, what do you guys make of this one?
I think it's interesting to watch. Oops, sorry, Jason.
Go.
I was going to say, it's funny because I've been playing around a lot with Home Assistant for any of a number of reasons. Mostly that some friends of mine are on their 3rd or 4th sort of ecosystem for their home automation, and it's interesting to watch Google start to do some of the stuff they're doing, like Presence, and they're changing. I hate to say taking a more touchy-feely approach, but the idea that they can use Presence to detect if you're there and, help you decide what routines to integrate. It's just, there's like a level of fuzzy logic going on here that I find really appealing, because I don't absolutely want certain things to happen when I walk into my house. I'm not that guy. Plus, there's, children and a spouse and cats and dogs moving around, but I think it's really curious to watch how they're setting up the automations and to see their take on how to set this up with the least amount of emotional trauma for the end user. So
and that's really the point. Somebody who uses Google Home and has, I would say, 50% of the home plugged into Google Home, because my wife has drawn a line in that she does not want to live on the enterprise. And
we have similar models.
Yeah, exactly. And it was funny because a couple of weeks ago, actually, there was a power failure at night, and I was out. And my wife texted me at like 9:30, and she's like, the power's out, it's not going to come back until midnight. And I was like, oh, okay, blah blah. And then she's like, what's going to happen when the power comes back on? And I was like, oh, all the lights will turn on. Yeah. And she's like, oh, cool, great. And so then the power came back, and she's like, what should I do? And I was just like, and at this point I'm like, oh god, do I have to go home now? But I think I was in the city, and it would have been at least an hour till I'd be able to get home. And I basically said, just tell Google just to turn everything off. And thankfully that worked. Like it didn't,
but sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes it doesn't, right?
We've got Hue bulbs in all of our rooms now and Hue switches on the walls. And sometimes that scenario that you're laying out, what would happen is power gets restored, all the lights go on, and then I go to the switch to turn them off, and the switch doesn't work because the hub's still in this like limbo state. So all the lights are on, and I cannot do anything other than like a monster go up to the lights and manually flick them off. Why would I even want to do that? But doing it the smart way, I have to wait for it all to negotiate, and so that's a little bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, it's slightly terrifying, the whole idea of booting your house up.
Yep.
Oh, totally. But that's exactly what it is. And Patrick, you mentioned something which really rang a bell for me, which is this idea that comes up time and time again that our computers someday, our systems someday are going to be so smart that they do the things that you want before you know you want it. And my experience always is that never works. It never lines up with what I actually want. Maybe it does 1 out of 10 times or whatever, but the other 9 times I'm just annoyed that it made a decision for me. So recognizing the habitual nature of my activities and recommending, oh, hey, maybe you want to set up a routine like this. That's the approach that I want. Offer it up as an option, but don't just assume that you know better than I do on everything, because I'm telling you, you don't.
Yeah, the Google AI summaries on Google search as of late have been something that have really been trying my soul. Because I'm just like, okay, so I'm now that much farther before I can get to the results I actually want. And they're getting better, but I remember I did not run into any eat rocks in place of minerals, but I've had a couple things where I've been like, that is so authoritative and so completely wrong.
So wrong. So assuredly wrong.
I actually
not being wrong.
I felt as if it was responsible. I submitted feedback. I searched for something. I was trying to figure out when my town's summer camp opened up for registration, and the AI overview gave me a whole bunch of information about a completely other town on Long Island. In response, and gave the link, and it was from a website that had information about town. It just combined all the towns into one post, and so the AI. So I Google's how is this result? And I thumbs down, and I explained what happened, and I sent it to the
I am
ether.
not a seasonal resident of Greenpoint.
I know, exactly. I don't care what Port Washington's doing. I'm not in Port Washington. But so I felt as if it's our responsibility when we see that to report inaccuracies so that the AI can learn and eventually destroy us. So,
yay!
Yay, indeed. All right. Well, looking forward to having some more AI insights and the ability to use it for routines in Google Home. I definitely will play with it when it does roll out. So, thank you, patrons, for voting on that story. Thank you, Android Authority, for writing it. And up next, we're going to be talking about Samsung Galaxy Unpacked. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in a moment. All right. So it is indeed Samsung Galaxy Unpacked Eve. Very exciting. The annual post CES. I feel like Samsung settled into this January rhythm now of CES happens and then you hear from Samsung. What is that, Jason?
No, it's actually not. It's not the S25. It's the S24 Ultra. But I have it with me to throw you off.
You did.
Oh no, did I just spoil things? Oh no, I didn't. It's actually the S24 Ultra.
Well, so Jason, you are in San Jose. You're going to be attending Galaxy Unpacked in person.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah. Because we've covered these things from a distance for more than a decade. I've covered the Unpacked, the times where they had the Hollywood performance that everyone made fun of. I mean,
I love that one.
Every step of the way, I've covered it from a distance. So this is the first time that I actually get to go into a stadium where they hold it. That's how many people apparently are invited to this thing. And it's a big production. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be an interesting experience.
So we talked last week about all the leaks that happened, and it feels like, everything, there are no, there will be no surprises tomorrow.
No secrets.
But what are we expecting? What are you expecting to see? What is on your hit list? What do you want to see come out of it? I mean, Patrick, have you been tracking any of those leaks or that sort of stuff? What would you like to see from Samsung tomorrow?
A phone I can afford.
Yeah.
But that's the way I feel about every other flagship phone offering at this point. I'm kind of curious what they're going to do with Galaxy AI and what's going on there.
Yep.
At this point, I'm still waiting for and I keep getting fascinated by how good the cameras are and how they keep inching more performance out of them. But beyond that, I feel like every time I look at a phone, I'm like,
Yep.
My first car cost less than that.
Yeah, but that was another time, Patrick.
Well, yeah, admittedly, I think my biggest challenge is I'm at this weird point where I would like a not thinner phone, perhaps a ruggedized phone. And I would like phones that don't make me flinch when I see the retail price for a flagship, which I feel really terrible saying that on this show, but I've always been kind of a entry level, mainstream phone kind of consumer. So, it's, I don't know.
Even your car that you bought however many years ago that you're comparing it to, you only drove that a handful of times a day. Your smartphone, you're pulling that out of your pocket 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 times, depending on who you are.
Jason, I'm with you. I've had this conversation with my wife. She's actually more okay with me buying a highly functional phone than I am, which is really weird, and I should probably take advantage of that.
Right.
Well, so I want to know, Patrick, what was the first car and how much did you pay for it?
Actually, technically, it would be my second car, because the first car was a Triumph Stag that I inherited from my mom.
Nice.
And I think the first one I bought myself, I paid like $900 for. It was a pickup truck.
I got that beat. I got a 19.
No, I take it back. An FJ4. Sorry, 1971 FJ40.
Nice.
For how much?
I got a 1983 Plymouth Reliant K car for $50.
Oh my goodness.
That needed work, and we
It was a K car.
and we got it back up and running, and that car took me around town for about a year and a half in high school.
You got like a track phone.
Yeah, pretty much.
No, the track phone would last longer.
So I'm very curious to see tomorrow if Samsung shows anything about with the AR, VR, XR with Android XR
stuff.
What is the project? What was it again?
Project Muhan.
Muhan, yeah, Project Muhan.
Yeah.
They show. I'm looking forward to some awkward celebrity wearing the visor, talking about how cool it is.
Out on stage. Try not to bump into anything.
Yeah, exactly. But
I can't tell if you're being snarky or genuine at this point.
Honestly, it's both, Patrick. At this point in 2025, after doing this for 15 years, it's both.
Okay.
It's all entirely possible. Like, there's nothing that we've talked about that isn't outside the realm of possibility.
Well, Patrick, going against your wishes, the latest rumor and the latest leak since we last met last week on the show was that there will be an ultra thin design with the Samsung Galaxy S25, and On Leaks and Smart Pricks had the renders of an ultra thin version of the Galaxy S25 with 3 camera lenses versus the 5 on the Galaxy Ultras, 6.4 millimeters, which would make it one of Samsung's thinnest phones ever. It's got the Snapdragon 8 Elite chipset, flat frame, flat screen, and would come out in May 2025.
These are all amazing features, and I'm fascinated by the idea of that much power and that much camera is going to be stuffed into that thin an object. I just know the first time I put it in my pocket and sit down, it will bend.
Probably right.
You need to get immersed then. Patrick, you're just going to need to get immersed.
That's right up there with my backpack is not a safe place for a phone, as I've discovered.
No,
so perhaps I get a little titanium holster. Maybe Samsung will make the thin phone out of titanium, and it won't bend.
We're all getting older. Like, let's not pretend that we're not all getting older. Maybe we're of the age to get a phone holster, like my dad had.
No, we're not. I don't know. I'm into the thin. I think it's really cool. But my big concern or big worry about with any of these thin super super slim phones is what is the battery life, right? Because we all know that the biggest, the thicker, the chunkier the phone, the bigger the battery, right? And so, so honestly, what can this battery life be on a phone that's only 6.4 millimeters?
Well, but need I remind you, Ron and Patrick, that the OnePlus 13 had the carbon silicon battery technology, which is a more compact, higher efficiency battery. And so that allows for a thinner phone with the same amount of battery. So
but the Samsung have that technology.
Yeah, that's the question. But it's possible is what I'm saying. So if that was really the goal, there's a way to do it.
Yep.
It exists.
I don't know. I'm excited for it. I always go into Samsung Galaxy Unpacked with a bit of indifference because I've never owned a Samsung phone. I've never used a Samsung phone. Right. I have no interest in a Samsung phone. I don't know if it's One UI that turns me off or just like I'm not in on the ecosystem. My dad is a loyal Samsung Galaxy phone user. That might have something to do with it because he refuses to mute notifications. So talking to him is just whatever. I just was with him today, and it was just an endless series of beeps coming from his phone. I'm like, Dad, just mute it. Just how hard is it? Like, I
gotta know, man.
And it's on a holster. It's on a belt holster, right? I love my dad. He's the best. But still,
look, holsters come for us all, Ron. It's only a matter of time.
But I do think it's interesting, and I know a lot of our audience are Samsung users and want to know what the latest and greatest, and this could be the next people's phones. But for me, I'm just like, okay, cool,
Yeah.
But
well, speaking of thinner, what about a phone, but not just a phone, a foldable that is only marginally thinner, like thicker than a USB-C port. And that is where we're at now, apparently. The Oppo Find N5 is the latest foldable coming from Oppo. They actually released pictures showing this thinness. And if you see that top photo that you just scrolled past, I mean, it kind of shows that the top phone, there's not much. I mean, there's hardly a sliver of anything surrounding that port. That's about as thin as that phone can get.
I don't even think there's a millimeter on either side of the USB port looking at it. And it's like, I literally look at that, like, anybody watching my phone is, I have tempered glass. I have an armored case. It is filled with rubber because I just thrash phones. And I look at this and I'm like, from an aesthetic standpoint, it looks lovely. Yep. And I just know it will disintegrate in my hands. My wife will keep a phone completely unscratched and looking new for like 7 years, and I can't do it for 7 weeks. So
I mean, I'll give myself credit. I remember I got the OnePlus 8 Pro, Jason, and within like a week I had like 3 major scratches. Remember at DroidCon, you were like, "Whoa, look at those scratches!" And it was like literally, Patrick, within a week of getting it, right? I've got the 9 Pro, and I've had it now since this came out, and no scratches. I don't know if the glass has changed, or I haven't put it in my pocket with my keys, or what. Because unlike you, Patrick, I do not wrap my phone in rubber. I do not use a case. I have no protection whatsoever. I'm just, me versus the elements, and a prayer to God.
My annual phone budget dropped impressively when it became really easy to find tempered glass screen protection.
So we talked about the rumor of this Oppo phone last week.
It's ridiculously thin.
And I love that they responded to the rumor by just saying, okay, cool, we'll show it to you. And there's a photo of the phone next to 2 Chinese coins stacked on top of one another.
Look at that.
I mean, a stack of credit cards next to it. I mean,
credit cards.
No, 4 credit cards.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, the
39 sticky notes.
The comparison to the iPhone thickness, it just makes. I mean, it makes the iPhone.
It's like
the zoom in of it on the USB ports makes the iPhone look enormous next to it.
Yeah.
And to a certain point where we talk about it being as thick as the USB-C port, at some point you get into like structural integrity and like how the port can work and much like battery size and battery chemicals will be a limiting factor of our phones. Is the USB-C port now a limiting aspect of it? Are we going to see USB-C mini to get around this at some point, or like
portless? We're going to go portless. Wasn't Apple like at one point rumored to be working on a buttonless, portless device? I realize.
Would it just be wireless charging then if it's portless?
I guess so.
Oh
yeah,
my God.
I mean,
Trying
there
really
have been
hard not
phones
to
that
start
are
with
that,
Johnny Ive
right?
notes.
Haven't there been Android phones that we've talked about on previous iterations of this show that were, had no ports and they were just purely wireless? And of course, the thing there is, oh well, what if you need to restart it? And, there's no way to force it, or but
Yep.
apparently there are ways. So the other bit of news around this, and maybe we discussed it last week, I can't remember, is that this is essentially destined to be, or likely to be rather, the OnePlus Open 2 in the United States. So, you're more likely to see it here in the US.
So is this going to be a painfully expensive phone, or is this going to be a relatively affordable or a
How much was
foldable?
how much
No,
was
the
OnePlus Open?
the OnePlus Open was painfully expensive. It was like OnePlus did their best to make it affordable,
Sure.
but I think it listed for, if memory serves me,
Oh,
under
OnePlus
2,000,
Open's-
under 2,000, but above 1,500.
Oh,
Got
wow.
it.
Right, Jason? Do you have the price
Well,
there? Or?
so I'm looking on the site, the OnePlus site. It's $1699.99.
Yep. But OnePlus does the genius thing where they will give you a rebate on any phone.
Okay.
So Patrick, if you have a Nokia from 2001, you could send it to OnePlus and they'll give you a credit.
There may be one around here.
Yeah, I've had a feeling there would be. But yeah, so OnePlus does their best to try to get the list price down for you to make it a little more affordable,
Right.
but it is still north of 1,500 because of the foldable, and that will be the big question for the OnePlus Open too, if it's the same price point or if they're able to get that lower. So, but when you're looking at a book style foldable, that's a big phone. But even if it's thin like this Oppo,
Right.
it's 2 screens. It's a lot in there. So
And if it's that thin, then once it's closed, because that photo that you showed, that initial photo was stacked with an iPhone, and it almost looked like half the thickness. So is that to say that it's more likely that once it's folded, it is the thickness of an iPhone or close?
right, yeah.
The article up on The Verge quotes an iPhone 16 Pro Mac at 8.25 millimeters and a USB-C port at 2.6 millimeters. And I feel comfortable in saying that half of that phone we were looking at, that Oppo, is probably about 3 millimeters thick, if that. So yeah, folded it could actually be thinner than an iPhone 16.
Wow.
That'd be cool.
That is certainly what that picture is trying to suggest to me.
Yeah, indeed. That's
The
crazy.
foldable phone, the book style foldable phone that is as thick as a standard smartphone, is the dream of the foldable, right? Because when the Samsung Fold first came out, it just looked like a brick, right? It was
felt
like
a
this
brick.
Yeah. So this is where it's got to
Looked like
go.
a
It's got to
brick.
go thinner. So
Yeah, interesting. And it's only really fragile if it's unfolded.
or in Patrick's possession.
Head just sagged in defeat. And look, we caked it up with a bunch of really irritating customizations on what could have been a pure Android experience.
Well, talking about pure Android experience, there's another bunch of phones that were announced late last week from our good friends over at Honor. Honor getting on the AI bandwagon, launched as they put it, the AI-powered HONOR Magic7 Pro, and they're still ride or die with Porsche. The ultra premium Porsche design HONOR Magic7 RSR phone, which features design elements brought to you by the fine folks at Porsche, or Porsche as it's pronounced. Porsche. But so the HONOR Magic7 Pro available in Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and Asia Pacific. So not available here in the US. Patrick, I know you're really excited to see HONOR be talked about. But
I'm kind of, the design fascinates me, but mostly I'm just, part of me is just looking at the battery technology and being like, I can get into that. Yep. I am okay with that.
Yeah, so they really are doing what they can to make these phones special. They're highlighting the AI aspect of Magic OS 9.0, which of course is built on top of AOSP. They are what I find fascinating, and Jason, I don't think we've seen this yet, but we've seen personalization in Android around the UI, whether it's Samsung's One UI or OnePlus's, it's Oxygen OS, right? Or is it, they changed that?
OnePlus is Oxygen OS.
OnePlus is Oxygen OS, right? You see all these different flavors of Android, and of course Honor's got the Magic OS, but they're also sharing Magic Portal, which users can circle desired objects with the screen and enable instant text and image comprehension and access wanted app services instantly. So did Honor rebrand Circle to Search as Magic Portal?
Certainly seems pretty familiar, actually.
Right. Like, is it Google Circle to Search just rebranded, or their own Circle to Search? I don't know.
I mean, I doubt it's. I would be really surprised if it was actually a rebranded Circle to Search. I think Google would be like, nah, you
can't. Unless, I don't know, but there's a whole section in their press release about Google Gemini. So Honor is embracing Gemini and bringing all the AI and context-aware help that.
That's interesting then. So if it's Gemini on board.
Yep.
And there's a Circle to Search-ish function, but they're not calling it Circle to Search. Yeah, I don't know that we've seen that yet, if that's true. If they were able to rebrand Circle to Search to their own thing, I don't know that we've actually seen that.
Yep.
So that would be different.
On the photography side, they were touting their Honor AI Falcon camera system. Yeah, it's hard. These are great words they're using.
The language in this press release is just like, it makes me giggle like every third sentence. Sorry.
So they've got a 50 megapixel super dynamic main camera, the Honor Falcon main camera, as they put it. It's got a 50 megapixel wide camera and then a 200 megapixel telephoto camera on the back. And if you're looking at the photos of it from the press release, they have the centered circle camera system that looks similar to OnePlus. As we've seen before, but a lot of cameras packed in there, and of course they've got AI integration within their on their photo side. So they have the AI Honor Image Engine, which is they say the industry's first mobile imaging system with hybrid device cloud AI large models, providing users with sophisticated and intelligent photography experience and elevated imaging capabilities. So they've got an AI supported super zoom that can take you in 30x zoom to 100x zoom, and then HD super burst, which allows to freeze high speed action sequences at 10 frames per second. Which is wild. And then Patrick, as you mentioned, they've got their third generation silicon carbon battery, which gives you a 5,850 slash 5,270 milliamp battery, and fast charging from 100 watt supercharge and 80 watt wireless supercharge, saying that you can get a full charge in just 33 minutes. Which is pretty wild. And these are all running on the Snapdragon 8 Elite. And they're just throwing everything they can at it with the Honor phones. So, and then of course you got the Porsche design, which gives you the elegance of Porsche.
No. It gives you a stunning fusion of groundbreaking human-centric technology and captivating design inspired by premium sports cars.
Yes,
sorry.
It is.
There's just aggro language in this press release.
It really does. And they've got two exclusive Porsche colors for the phone, classic agate gray, a sporty masculine yet elegant hue, and the brand new color Provence, a modern purple hue that adds a touch of flamboyance to an all-over clean and functional design. The non-Porsche phones, though, come in Lunar Shadow gray, Breeze blue, and black. And all these phones start at €1,299, which is roughly about $1,300 USD, maybe $1,400 USD. So the new Honor line is there.
Guaranteed to be Patrick's new phone because he has auto repair in his lower third.
There it is. So it'll be interesting. I bet Michal might get his hands on one of these, or hopefully, or I don't know, or somebody.
Hopefully so.
Yeah, we can take him for a test drive. So,
but I'm really happy to see the continuing kind of appearance of this silicon carbon battery technology. I think
you're big on it
because for so many years, like when we're talking about meaningful upgrades that actually impact everyone, like cameras, a lot of people care about camera technology, but some people don't. And AI, there's a lot of people that don't care about AI and some people do. There's like all these things that don't appeal to everyone. Battery technology, whether it appeals to you or not, is incredibly important for everybody. So when you're talking about this like upgraded battery technology that we rarely see upgrades to battery technology, and now the silicon carbon actually makes somewhat of a difference in creating more capacity in the same amount of space. So I think that's good to see more of that. I hope we continue to see more of it going forward.
Absolutely.
Y'all.
So, Jason, what's another manufacturer that we'd like to see more of?
Motorola. Motorola announced some new budget smartphones as they, for a very long time, I feel like have had a pretty good kind of name for. I don't know. Is that a dated reference? Has Moto G? Because there was definitely a time where the Moto G was like, oh my god, when it comes to
there were
budget
several
smartphones.
years where I was running Android and it was just like, what did Motorola release? Great, Moto G, whatever, and I was happy.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember those days. And I wonder if I'm still reacting as if that is still the case. Yeah, I don't quite know, but Motorola is still releasing Moto G devices. And
some reviewers are more enthusiastic about them than others.
Yeah, I've always been enthusiastic about the Moto G because I feel like Motorola has over the last by the way, time is no meaning. Because I would say over the recent years, but really, Jason, it's been like 8 years at this point, right? Since the 2010s, Moto has stepped in with a very affordable line of phones that pack a lot of features inside of them, and their approach to it is always very close to stock Android. They don't go too crazy with adding their own flourishes and things like that, but they make the phone stand out on their own, and when we talk about phones to recommend to people looking for the mid-range or whatever, I feel like the Moto G is always in that conversation, or should always be in that conversation.
Yeah, I always consider in that conversation, but I haven't had hands-on with it in a number of years now. So I would love to be able to get that experience, but
for sure.
And who knows, the Moto G Power has one, and then the just standard Moto G, the G Power $300, Moto G $200. So these are definitely low end devices, value, budget, whatever you want to call them. The G Power features IP68 and 69 certification, so we're seeing more of that on smartphones now, which essentially means as my OnePlus 13 review on my channel, it had the IP69 or has the IP69 rating, and all that means is like high pressure water can be shot at it and it can withstand it. There aren't many situations in which we find ourselves in life shooting high pressure water at our smartphones, but if it happens, you're covered. So with the G Power,
when I like to walk through the car wash and check my fantasy baseball team.
Funny you say car wash, because that was going to be one of my tests for the OnePlus 13. I was going to put it on a suction cup smartphone mount on the outside of my car and go through a car wash.
You should have.
I should have, but I ran out of time.
How could you have filmed that? That would have been tough to film, though, wouldn't it?
No, because I filmed all the other ones too. There's an app that you can set it.
Oh, you can have the camera just film as the phone. Yeah,
totally.
But you can't film. I guess you can get a camera in the car wash. You know what I mean? Like, what's the exterior shot?
Yeah. Anyways,
suction cup into the window and shoot it from the inside.
Right. Oh, totally. Yeah, that would actually work. Anywho, so yeah, the G Power $300, 6.8 inch FHD plus LCD display, has the 120 hertz refresh, so that's become a spec that we're seeing in the low range now, which is great.
They're actually running that. I remember because the G Power was one of Wirecutter's picks for an inexpensive Android phone last year, even though it was $300.
Oh, okay.
But they've had the 120 hertz. They've had sort of a gaming focus on that phone.
Yeah.
For the last couple of years. So.
I love it. 120 hertz is another one of those quality of life things that once you have it, it's hard to go back. But it also has wireless charging. $300 wireless charging. That's going to make some people happy. Yeah. And then the $200, obviously, for the Moto G, that's a ramped down version. Still 6.7 inch LCD, so slightly smaller screen. Does not have the wireless charging. Has the same MediaTek Dimensity 6300 processor as the G Power, just less RAM, 4 gigs instead of 6. And these are going to debut on January 30th. The G will debut on January 30th. The Power will become available on February 6th.
Nice.
Yeah. Because you want to space out the G to give it its time to shine before the Power just blows it away, right?
Before Power just sucks all the air out of the room.
Powers through it, yeah. Well, I would love to get my hands on a Motorola phone. It's been a while since I've gone through the paces. I actually was going through my box O phones. Because I finally have been collecting them from all the corners of the house and getting them in one box, and I found my Moto Mod phone, Jason.
Wow!
Do you remember
that was a golden era
with the pogo pins on the back, and you could you know. So I found that one, and I found the Moto X4, which still had the. I never actually used. It still had the layer like of text on the front, like the overlay when you open it from the box. I guess I never even turned that phone on. So
you got it, but you just never turned it on.
Yeah.
That was a 2017 phone.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Looking at,
I feel like it's going to be a real slow boot on that one.
Yeah, exactly.
So wait a minute. So you've never powered that phone on?
I don't think it still has the weird marketing overlay on top of it. I've never turned it on.
Oh man, that's like a time capsule right there.
Yeah, I should do that.
That would be an interesting time capsule.
Like a POV one. Yeah, like let's go back in time.
Yeah, I love it.
So. All right. Well, one last bit of hardware I want to talk about over in the laptop world, and this is actually a feature that I got to see last year when I visited Google for one of their Chromebook events. But Google's got an accessibility feature that allows you to control your laptop with your face. Which is pretty cool. It's called Face Control on Chromebooks, and it rolls out with the Chrome OS M132 update. And basically allows you to, it uses the laptop's camera, front-facing camera, to capture your face, and you use gestures with your face to control the cursor and actually perform tasks on the laptop, like hitting enter or mouse click or whatever it is, through blinking or moving your lips or things like that. And basically this might all sound like, oh, that's wacky, but if someone who is confined to a wheelchair, has got muscular issues, can't use a keyboard, can't use a mouse, this could unlock a whole world of interactivity with the device through this accessibility option to allow them to use their laptop in ways they never have before. So
this is this is not like some goofy booth at CES where they're like, you're going to control your video games with your face, except it is about controlling with your face. Like I think it was Lance Carr, who was part of Project Game Face, who had muscular dystrophy, and then
Game Face,
this is really wild. It maps 478 points on your face, which allows you to do 18 different gestures. And I'm kind of curious, like, what all the 18 different gestures are. Is it like, eyebrow left, eyebrow right, smirk left, smirk right? But this is, I know several people who work with creating game controls for people with disabilities or challenges, and this is pretty slick. I'm kind of fascinated by it, especially on a Chromebook. When you think about, I realize that there are fast and powerful Chromebooks, but I still think of Chromebook as being this incredibly affordable, modestly powered device, and it's pretty slick that they've got this running.
Yep. Yeah, so there's a video. Google released a video where it's got a side by side of the laptop's screen with the shot of a woman using the laptop through the facial gestures, and so you can see the different kind of tilting the head down to move the cursor down, doing like a smirk to the left to do a click, and moving the head to the left or right to move the cursor. It just, again, like when I see stuff like this, it kind of almost, I don't want to be too cheesy, but it warms my heart, because this is going to enable people to use computers who haven't been able to use computers. This is like the good in the world that companies like Google and other companies can do if they set their minds to it and try to do it right. So I'm happy to see that. There's some hope in the world for it. So, but pretty neat. So
also for folks like me who have been making stupid faces all their lives, like just trying to make the weirdest faces ever, maybe I can actually put it to work.
Possibly.
Your time is now.
Become more efficient in my work. Yep. Create a shortcut attached to my weird faces.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's going to wrap up hardware for this week. I'm sure we're going to have a lot more next week to talk about after the Samsung Galaxy Unpacked dust settles and we hear from Jason, from you, and Michelle's experience at the event and things like that. So it should be a fun one. So, I forgot to mention also next week Michelle's going to be on with a major Android 16 deep dive in terms of all the stuff that's been leaked and released and stuff like that. There have been updates. Google's at it again, doing lots of hard work. So tune in next week if you want to hear the latest going on with Android 16.
Nice. Yes, indeed.
Yep.
All right, we got some apps news to talk about, and Perplexity, which is I think I've mentioned plenty of times on this show and on AI Inside. It's the AI kind of service that I use most often. It's just a really great research tool, and the more I use it, the better, the more I like it. But Perplexity is about to get assistant integration capability. So there is a Perplexity Android app, and it has kind of embedded in the app. It does have kind of a voice. Conversational voice kind of query part of the interface. So I wonder how much of this assistant functionality is that, but taken to the next level. This isn't live. It isn't even announced yet. So there's just some early peekage happening, but some people are finding the option after they sideload the latest Perplexity APK. They're given the option to enable it on a system-wide basis in Android and enable Perplexity to be the assistant in Android settings. And then you can summon it with the device gesture, whatever you have set up, though there is no hot word activation, at least not yet, according to this. And then it can do, a lot of the standard kind of assistant things that we've come to expect: playing media, reminders, writing texts, emails, navigation, ride coordination, notification summary, all that kind of stuff. Whole bunch of other things. But yeah, so if you want to replace your I guess your Gemini or your Google Assistant with Perplexity, you can. I don't know that I would, but you can. I mean, I'll try it. I mean, I guess I would be the person to do that because I use Perplexity, but it's hard for me to kick Google's official thing to the curb. I think at the end of the day, it's just hard for me to do that. And
also the challenge, at least for me, like going back to what we were talking earlier about Google Home, so much of what my interaction with Assistant has been and what Gemini, will become has been not only getting information, but controlling devices. And if Perplexity can't have hooks into Google Home or any other assistant have hooks into Google Home, then it's useless to me because I'm locked in.
Right. Yeah. If this didn't have those hooks, it'd be hard for me to commit to it full time.
Yeah. I did have to laugh. I want to call out because in one of the examples, they show how with Perplexity, you can ask with camera, where you can open the camera and ask any question about what's in front of you, which is very similar to Google Lens and that sort of thing. I was watching on Netflix the show Black Doves, if anybody is into spy stuff, spycraft. Keira Knightley, Ben Wisham, who's fantastic in it. But there was one scene where Keira Knightley, she plays a spy, and she sees something and opens up her phone's camera, and it locks in on it and then searches for it. And my wife goes, "Ha, that's not how that works." And I said, "Well, actually, that's exactly how it works now." And so it was. Well, it wasn't. They did the special effects to make it look non-specific operating system. But I was like, "Yeah, no, we can do that now." And she's like, "Oh, okay, cool." So I thought that was a fun little moment.
Yeah, remember when zoom in, enhance, was ridiculous, and now we're kind of there too.
Yep, exactly. Oh, I missed 24. That was so good. The original zoom and enhance one, right? So, all right. Well, I'm sure everybody has been following the news for whatever reason you might be following the news for. But I know a lot of those of us in the. I know, Patrick. It's hard to talk around it. All right.
I'm just admiring this magnificent effort.
Thank you. But a hot topic amongst all of us in the digital world was the TikTok ban, which was going to go into effect, and then did not go into effect. It did go. No, it never actually went into effect. TikTok.
TikTok shut everything down.
Exactly.
Proactively.
Exactly.
With a proactive call out to trash. Yeah.
Exactly. But I don't want to dwell on that because we've all heard that. But what I thought was really interesting was that simultaneously you see a scrambling of all the other platforms to potentially fill a void that could be left for TikTok if TikTok goes away. So there was just a parade in a very short period of time of features. So Blue Sky is adding a custom feed for vertical videos. So if you're a Blue Sky user and you love vertical videos on TikTok, maybe the worlds will meet. I don't know if your TikTok creators will go to Blue Sky, but now they've got vertical video. So that was the first one I saw. What was that?
If a lot of those TikTokers are going to go to Blue Sky, then they're going to want to know, are you monetizing?
Yeah,
'Cause
exactly.
if not,
Which I don't
then
think
why
Blue Sky
would I?
has any monetizing in place. But
Yeah.
anyway, then I saw that Instagram rolled out a app to basically challenge CapCut. Which is the video editing app by ByteDance, which is what a lot of people use on TikTok to create it. So Instagram has announced a video editing app called Edits. So they want to step right in and provide and the description that Adam Mosseri from Instagram, the Instagram head, shared was that Edits is more than a video editing app. It's a full suite of creative tools. There'll be a dedicated tab for inspiration, another for keeping track of ideas, a much higher quality camera, all the editing tools you'd expect, ability to share drafts with friends and other creators, and then sharing your videos on Instagram and giving you insights on how those videos perform. So they're saying Edits is coming and shared some screenshots of what it will look like. So, if people lose CapCuts, they will be able to use Edits. And then last but not least, the platform X is rolling out vertical video feed for US users as well, to fill that void where TikTok might leave it. So everyone is stepping up to fill, to create, to give us the things we want in a post TikTok world. But
to fill the void that was a void for 8 hours?
24 hours, not even
9, 10? I don't know. It was a pretty short void.
Let's give credit where credit is due. All of these companies were planning on following Instagram in trying to tap into the enthusiasm of TikTok's audience long before any threat. And they've only got, they've got 75 days to figure out whether or not it's still going to be around at the moment.
Right.
You know. Yeah. When we were recording, there was a 75-day reprieve, so we'll see, how things go.
Now, what I found really curious is, and maybe I didn't look hard enough, but what is YouTube doing? Why aren't they aggressively chasing those folks for YouTube Shorts? Like, why isn't there why doesn't YouTube just roll out a YouTube Shorts app or whatever? It seems.
Paraphrase a friend of mine. YouTube has enough trouble. YouTube Shorts has cannibalized so much work by some of YouTube's best creators. I think they're a little paranoid of pushing more of their creators off of long duration or long format video into short format video.
Yep.
Based on some conversations I've had.
Yeah,
I think the last thing they want is to gut more of their long format, because you can't fit as many ads in short format video.
Right. I mean, YouTube definitely has suffered in the last 2 years of trying to have their cake and eat it too by seeing. And what was so funny was that, I was tracking this over the past 2 years, was that short form video, TikTok, yada yada, and so then YouTube Shorts comes out and there was all this rush and they changed the algorithm to favor shorts and all this sort of stuff. And then I remember a year ago, TikTok rolled out long form support where you could do now you can watch a 20-minute video on TikTok, and it's just everyone's trying to be everything for everyone, and none of it works, So it's bizarre.
Be all things to all people.
Yep.
Next thing you'll tell me is my favorite streaming service will have live sports that I'll have to scroll by to get to the things I actually purchased the streaming service for.
Oh my God. I need a setting on YouTube TV to tell it that I don't watch football or basketball and stop trying to push it on me. It's so annoying. But,
Rod, we have sports ball and you can watch it live right now.
I know. And yet they can't make a deal with the New York sports network of the one sport I do watch, baseball. I need
a whole different bag of weasel.
I know. So, anyway, all right. So we're tracking the TikTok drama as it goes, but now lots of options from other platforms if vertical video is your thing. Good luck. Good luck finding what you want. In fact, I saw a Instagram story from our mutual friend, all three of ours mutual friend, Veronica Belmont, where she said, I've just been watching the last year's worth of TikToks on Instagram because everyone's catching up and just publishing, right? So she was living the rerun life on Instagram from a post TikTok world.
TikTok reruns, all of them with their little TikTok bugs.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably.
So, anyway, All right, Jason, what's going on Android Auto?
Yeah, not much of a segue from TikTok to Android Auto, but sometimes you just can't control that. Mishal, if he was here, would be talking about the impending launch of Google's Car Ready Mobile Apps program, which is apparently happening next month. It was first announced at Google I/O 2024, and the idea is to broaden the number of apps available in cars that are running Android Automotive OS. Google has been actively on the prowl looking for apps that work well in large screen mode. So like for tablets and for like Chrome OS or whatever, to bring the best of those apps into the Android Automotive OS while parked. Yes, of course. Google says that the apps have to meet a certain level of quality guideline to be considered. And apparently a lot, some of these apps require some sort of a compatibility mode in order to surface a back button, because in Android Automotive, you don't necessarily have a back button there. So, they end up doing a little overlay of a back button in the top corner. So more apps coming to your Android Automotive operating system, potentially, eventually.
Oh,
wild.
So. I would like this.
I just find it very funny that the verboten thing in cars has been any sort of video app or anything like that, and now they're all going play video on Android Auto like those, like they are. That paradigm is breaking as the screens and videos are getting larger, and strange.
Yeah, they're doing it, but I mean they are linking it to being parked. It's my understanding. Yep. So, which. So you're parking and waiting for someone. It gives you, I mean, my kids do it all the time. And one of our vehicles has this. And if we're parked and waiting for my other daughter to get out of school, my younger daughter is like, all right, I'm going to hop on YouTube. And, she'll do that.
That's what I fear. Those are the things that I try to gaslamp my children and have them.
Oh, totally.
It doesn't exist. Right? Yeah,
the wheels are off at this point in my house.
You can't do that. Yeah, it's done.
Yeah, see, one of our primary cars is an 83 Volvo 240
Smart.
with hand cranked windows. The children do not complain about any other vehicle they're in at all now. It's great.
Smart. Good idea.
Love it. That's great.
All right. And finally, I don't know about you guys, but I've ran into something recently using Google Messages and RCS with iPhone users, in that you have the little indicator in Google Messages that tells you whether you're using RCS or using SMS, and it was bouncing back and forth between RCS and SMS to the point where one of my friends who's on iOS and is also a jerk was like, must be some problem on your end because, Lord knows Android is always the problem, whatever. Well, turns out it's not.
Apple's always perfect.
I was really happy to see this.
No, it's not.
Android Authority ran the article that there was a confirming the same problem I saw, and then they confirmed that it was in fact Apple's fault. That basically the texts are reverting back to SMS when you're chatting with an iPhone user.
Oh yeah, of course it's Apple's fault. It's on a site called Android Authority. What else are they going to say?
So Google confirmed to Android Authority that Apple is aware of it. That when an Apple device, it's a bug on their end that reverts back to SMS despite the RCS being available. And they said, we at this point we don't have a sense of we're confirmed that it's a bug, but don't know when the solution is going to be available or when it's going to be fixed or who's going to deliver a fix. So, but the important thing is that it's a problem on Apple's side. If it's happening to you, it is your friend with an iPhone, and Apple's got to fix it. So that's the long and the short of it. So
I don't know that
I'm sure that'll be a priority in Apple's development teams.
Yeah. I said this to my buddy who was blaming Android, and I was like,
and what did he say in response? I'm curious.
He's like, whatever, still suck.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Just get a real phone.
Yeah, exactly.
He sounds like a bad friend, Ron.
Yeah.
I think you need to divorce your friend.
No, he's
just kidding. Just kidding.
So, all right. Well, let's get a wrap up for ads. Jason, how you doing on time? Can you do some emails?
Yeah, I think I can hang. Yeah, I can hang.
Right, great.
It looks like we're doing okay on time.
So we're going to hear from you, the audience, in just a moment. All right, we got some emails which are fun to share with everybody. Our first one comes from John from Cincinnati, who says, "Hello, gang. Love the show. I'm writing about the question on the missing Google Play app on the Samsung 10 work phone." And for those listening this week and those who are watching live, last week we got an email about someone who couldn't access the Google Play Store to get Android Auto on their Samsung 10 work phone. It was Morbius65, I believe, who's in the chat. I saw him earlier tonight. And we had some chatter going on after the show about it. But John wrote in and said, "Most likely, since it's a work phone, the company is using an MDM to lock down the phone. The MDM will block Google system apps and only allow apps the company wants users to access. My suggestion for the emailer is to ask the employer IT to enable Android Auto on the phone. Obviously, Android Auto can make driving safer, so there shouldn't be an issue for the employer to whitelist the feature." So Morbius65 in the chat. I know last week you said you might be getting a new phone soon, so that might solve it too. But there's probably what happened.
But if you get a new phone, will they still disallow the same things?
That's a good point. Yeah, if they're locking down what apps you can use, yeah.
If it's a work phone,
yeah,
like the MDM stuff, they basically lock it down completely to whatever their configurations are. So that's the downside of using a work phone. Or a work phone for a place with significant security management in place.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So the original emailer, Morbius65, says in chat just now, "It's been asked, but they keep saying no to the question." And that's just a more challenging conversation that you need to have.
Dang.
There's nothing where I will say it is very frustrating being a technically savvy person working in an organization where you are not in the IT department, and the politics you need to do to befriend the folks in IT, to have them understand that you are someone who knows what they're talking about and thus give you privileges that the normies don't get. That is a tough thing to navigate. I've been there. So
yeah, indeed. Indeed. Okay. All right. Well, how about I read the next one?
Go for it.
Derek writes in to say, "Hi, Android Faithful crew. I've been looking at buying the Pixel 8a. The low price point makes it attractive to me. When I recently went to Best Buy, I saw that the Pixels were on sale. This brought the Pixel 8 to $499 and the Pixel 8a to $399. This got me thinking, which phone is better? Should I go for the discounted Pixel 8a or stick with my original budget and get a better Pixel 8? Thanks for your input, and I love listening to the show." Thank you, Derek. It's a good question. Looks like you have a comparison.
Yeah, so Derek provided a screenshot from Best Buy showing the Pixel 8 available for $499 and the Pixel 8a 5G available for $399. They both have 128 gig storage. Which do you buy, gentlemen? You've got $500. Do you buy the Pixel 8? Or do you spend $400 and get the Pixel 8a and buy something else with that money?
You get more battery and a better camera in the Pixel 8, and you get a slightly bigger screen. Is that worth $100?
Yeah, because the processor's the same.
Yeah, processor's the same. I would say
maybe you get more RAM. I don't know. Yeah, I guess it really at the end of the day depends on and probably the update guarantee is probably the same too, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's got to be, right? Yeah. So.
So really at the end of the day, if performance,
then although Cousin of Josh says in the chat, the 8 will lose support quicker than the 8A by 6 months.
Because the 8A right, but yeah. But what is the support path? Is it 7 years? If so, I doubt you're going to have these for 7 years anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, my point of view always is that if you got the cash, go for spend the
better
cash.
phone.
If the $100 isn't going to break your bank, go for the 8, because for all the reasons that Patrick listed. If you've got $400 and you want to, or if you got $300 or whatever the dollar amount is, and you could use that $100 for something else, then save that $100 and get the cheaper phone. Yeah, it's personal preference at that point, I think. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, those phones are so close.
Yeah, 6 months. It is a 7-year update promise on those phones, so 6 months doesn't really matter that much. I just personally, I'd be really surprised. I'm sure there will be people that hold on to these phones for that long, but I'd say the majority of people will probably switch away before that happens. Yeah. The 8 and 8A both have 8 gigs of RAM. So, you've got the same processor, you've got the same amount of RAM. So performance-wise, they're probably identical. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. Pony
It's
up.
funny. I'm noticing a review online, and they were like, for the money, just buy the 8A because it has everything the 8 has. Don't spend the extra $200. Yeah, it's funny. I don't know. It's there's not as much differentiating those two as I would like, but dropping the price down that far makes it really tempting.
If camera doesn't matter very much to you, then fine, get the 8A. I mean,
Have a lovely night out.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Get a nice steak. Or
take pictures
fried
of
chicken.
it,
or kale, or whatever your choice of food is. Well, whatever you do, Derek, please write in and let us know what you do. All right. Yeah. I've got people in the chat saying go with the 8. Some people saying get the 8A. It seems pretty split from our live stream chatters there. So, Derek, let us know what you choose. All right, and our last email comes in from Marge, who writes in and says, a recent Android update seems to have disrupted my 2 Pixel 4a phones. I'm told that I need to replace the batteries, even though they've been functioning great prior to the update. Google has offered 3 options: battery replacement at a local repair shop, $100 credit towards a new phone from Google, or $50 rebate. What gives? This seems like a ploy from Google to get users to abandon the 4A. Mine work perfectly and do everything I want from a phone. So I dug into this one. And this is actually related. This was in the news. I don't think we covered it, and we should have, Jason. But Google got ahead of the fact that the latest update in January would affect the battery life of owners of Pixel 4As. And so something in that update is changing the way the Pixel 4a interacts with the battery and handles the charge, etc. And so to get ahead of that, they proactively emailed all owners of the 4A that offer for $100 credit for a new phone from a store, or a $50 rebate, or the other option that Marge mentioned, I forget what it is. But anyway, I went onto Reddit and I found lots of angry people complaining about this update, where people were reporting that their battery life went from being able to get through the day to the phone dying in the matter of minutes after a full charge.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
Whatever this update did to the 4A batteries just basically bricked the phone when it comes to the battery.
I was going to say, this is another language moment, because Google's description is that, quote, some unquote Pixel 4a phones, the new battery management features in the 13 update may improve features to improve the stability of your battery's performance, so the battery may last for shorter periods between charges. Minutes is not shorter periods between charges. Minutes is unusable. But I also like that we want our customers to have the best possible experience with their products, so users of these impacted devices are eligible for an appeasement from Google. I am now in love with having an appeasement.
Marge, are you appeased by your options?
Marge is not appeased. Marge is angry.
I found a Reddit thread in the Pixel 4a subreddit, which, by the way, kudos to whoever's hanging out in the Pixel 4a subreddit. By the way, you really love your Pixel 4a.
I mean, still rocking it.
But there's a whole bunch of people complaining. The initial poster said, asking when is there going to be a class action lawsuit. I went from 7 hours of screen time to less than 30 minutes. The battery is now heating, and I fear it may catch fire. There was someone said, my phone has become unusable unless plugged in. I get essentially 45 minutes of runtime. My percentage goes down 2 at a time and up to 2 at a time. So there's a whole bunch of people on Reddit saying how to roll back, how to get away from this update. Right. A lot of people complaining about the same kind of stuff. They said, battery was, started at 100% in the morning and lasted until 10 p.m. with normal usage. Started the update today while at 95% and reigned at 95% for hours. Then at some point I checked and it was at 20%. Recharged to 55%. It was down to 6% within an hour of normal to light usage. So whatever Google did to the 4A and this battery stuff, they knew that it broke it, and they're offering people more money to upgrade. Now, Marge, to answer your question, I don't think it's a ploy to get you to buy a new phone. I don't think it's like a forced obsolescence thing, but whatever they're doing to manage the battery for the later models is not working well with the 4A, which I find very funny because I was talking about my my box of phones and I found my old 4A, you know, and I'm charging it back up. I haven't applied the update yet, but you know, now I'm afraid to, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, that would
to.
be. I mean, I honestly like the fact that they're offering a free battery swap. You know, I get not wanting to upgrade. I get feeling like the $100 credit is useless. But, you know, outside of, you know, Apple being drugged to the courts back in 2017, like, you know, I'm used to a company. It's like, oh, your phone, that's sucks.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and especially because
Go buy another one.
The update,
You know, because this is,
the
the fact
update
that
promise for this phone ended August 2023. So it ended, you know, it's beyond.
Right.
So I suppose from that perspective, getting something, even though you're beyond, but also even though it's Google's fault that happened in the first place.
I mean, maybe you
it's
guys
not a
used to
perfect
be-
solution.
Y'all, I mean, it just stop being used to being treated like valuable customers who are part of the Google ecosphere and get used to being trash that can be discarded like an Apple consumer.
Yeah.
So Marge,
I mean, no, I was gonna say it's the worst. I mean, because you know, if you have a device that works, you don't want to replace it. You don't want to replace it. You know, barring like you know, for example, you know, 4G service disappearing in your neighborhood, or it finally disintegrating, or the security updates to the point where it will no longer let you install anything. I'm sorry, Marge.
I know, it's a bummer, Marge. So, Marge, right back into us. If you're unable to find, you can roll back the update if you want to. But
I wonder if you did, if suddenly everything just popped back into place.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Is it one of those things where it permanently affects it or what? Yeah. I don't know. But sorry to be the bearer of bad news, Marge, but hopefully that explains to you what's going on there. And there are a lot of angry people. There's a lot of chatter on Reddit about class action lawsuits and stuff like that. So keep an eye out about that. This appears to be a not a very good thing for probably a lot of phone users. So it's a bummer.
Yeah.
So. All right. Well, on that note, if your battery life is affected by any updates for any reason, you can email us at contact@androidfaithful.com. We want to hear from you. If you need any advice on phone buying or any other questions, we're here for you. We're your friend in Android and happy to answer any questions you might have. So,
indeed.
All right. Well, Jason, you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, that is it. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening each and every week. And thank you to Sir Patrick Norton. Patrick, it's been a real pleasure having you here tonight. Thank you.
Oh, it's been a real pleasure being here. Thank you guys for having me.
What do you want to plug? What do you want people to know absolutely that you're up to so that they can check it out?
You know, you can find me at x.com at Patrick Norton. I'm at Patrick Norton on Blue Sky. And I think I'm at Patrick Norton on Blue Sky.
I couldn't find you. You might have to reactivate it or something. I was looking for you.
I'm there. There's a picture of me there. What does that really mean?
Exactly. I found other Patrick Nortons.
Well, I found you.
Oh, I found you. You're Patrick Norton on Blue Sky. I found you. How come I couldn't find you before? There you are. There he is.
Magic.
So we're going to follow you. There it is.
There he is.
And I'm following you.
So 3 months ago, you said, start posting here, or Tom Merritt and Roger will mock you.
You can tell how good a job I did at that.
It's so great having this like widening amount of different platforms that we always have to add one more and another one.
I'll be honest with you.
And another one.
When Twitter, now X, killed off all of the standalone apps, it radically, utterly, totally wiped out most of my participation in Twitter, because the native experience is just so horrendous compared to any of the apps I'd used, and I feel like I've just gained a whole lot of stability and joy and detachment from the vicissitudes of social media as a result.
It is interesting. It was funny because I was catching up with a former coworker and they're like, "Hey, where are you most active? I want to follow you and keep track of your stuff." I'm like, "I don't know, man, Instagram, like it's the same thing, like the diversification and has made it so challenging to, at least for me, has a very busy day, to like just, be browsing feeds and interacting and having the conversation. But I know so much of our work requires that. And it's just like, and now there are too many places to do it. Like, and I'm one of those people who's like, unless I'm going to do it really well, I'm not going to do it at all. So it's like,
Yeah.
It's frustrating. But we'll follow you on Blue Sky to stay tuned to what you're up to.
I'll post something. I'll get right on that.
Everywhere you go.
Yeah. Well, how about you, Jason? What are you up to these days?
Well, I think the main thing I want to say is anyone who is interested in one of my other podcasts, AI Inside with me and Jeff Jarvis, I just created a dedicated YouTube channel for the video podcast version. Before it was on my YouTube channel, and I think it was kind of, the running like thought around YouTube is that you got to be kind of specific and curated around the types of content you put into a single channel. And I felt like AI Inside was kind of getting lost compared to the other stuff. So I broke it out into its own channel. Just do a search for AI Inside Show, all one word, AI Inside Show. You'll find the channel and you can subscribe. And then that's where the live stream is going to happen. This week it actually happens on Thursday instead of Wednesday. And then all new episodes will be there. There's a podcast playlist you can subscribe to if you want it on YouTube. So there you go. That's all I got for this week.
Awesome. Good job on the AI Inside. Congratulations with the new channel.
Thanks.
And then over in my world, you might have heard in the news last week that David Lynch, talented film director, television creator of Twin Peaks, passed away. Very, very sad. Longtime listeners of the show might remember the fact that our good friend Tom Merritt of the Daily Tech News Show and I did a podcast called Damn Fine Podcast, which was going deep on Twin Peaks. We did an episode by episode watch and analysis. And what was so funny was that we ended that podcast a few years ago after we did Twin Peaks: The Return, and then we did the books, and then we stopped. And the last episode we came out was episode number 49. And for years, both Tom and I began people asking, when are you going to do episode number 50? And so with David Lynch's passing, we felt as if Mr. Lynch himself was telling us to do our 50th episode. So Tom and I gathered up last week, and we released it over this past weekend. You can go to damnfinepodcast.com or find it on any podcast catcher. And Tom and I kind of reflected on the legacy of David Lynch and said goodbye in our own special way. And so we'd love it if you can listen to it. It's about a half an hour of us just talking about David Lynch and how great he was. So yeah, I love it. So and that puts a nice end to Damn Fine Podcast. 50 episodes, round number. We did it. So
love it. And that's an evergreen podcast right there. Like that, you know what I mean? And
it was so funny because we actually got someone responded to my post about David Lynch's passing on Instagram and said that, and we read this on the podcast on the show, but he said that this one listener has a handful of podcasts that he's downloaded every episode that he just keeps listening to on work on repeat. And Damn Fine Podcast was one of them. And because he just loves Twin Peaks. And so it's great to be a part of somebody's life in that way. Yeah. And I'll tell you the other funny story was that just this morning, I was hanging out with my dad with a Samsung Galaxy on his belt clip. And he told me that he was just he had changed the battery in his car, so all of his radio presets got reset. And so he's an older Subaru. So he was trying to find a radio station while the car was warming up, and he just landed on a station out of Connecticut, and it was a rock station. And then I went to the DJ, and the DJ was talking about David Lynch's passing, and he said, he read Colin McLaughlin's, kind of eulogy that, the op-ed that he wrote in New York Times, and it was beautiful. And the DJ also said, and you got to listen to Ron Richards and Tom Merritt on Damn Fine Podcast. They did a great episode. And my dad, he said he almost crashed because he was like, what? Because he was pulled off the road because he didn't expect it. And I told Tom about it earlier today, and we're like, what are the odds that's crazy that my dad needed to find a radio station and happened to land on this station that happened to have a DJ who was into David Lynch and Twin Peaks, who happened to listen to our podcast and mention me. Like, it was almost Lynchian in an event. That's
crazy, dude. That is awesome.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. So
and how cool to have, like, of all people, your dad stumble upon that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's so cool. He was probably like, "Yep, that's my boy."
He thinks I'm weird.
I don't know your dad. I don't know if that's his characteristic, but
I think he tolerates his boy. So. All right, cool. Well, Patrick, thank you for joining us this week. You're the best.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Patrick. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
All right.
Thank you, Ron. And thank you,
Jason.
folks, for watching and for listening and for going to androidfaithful.com to read all the things that we put up there. Maybe there will be stuff put up there aside from this episode, of course, in the next couple of days because of some Samsung thing that might or might not be happening.
Samsung, and then I know Mishal's going to come up with Android 16 stuff, so definitely tune in. We got cool stuff coming. Yeah,
stuff coming.
Yep.
Patreon.com/AndroidFaithful is where you can go to support us directly. You can actually also support us directly on AndroidFaithful.com. But many people just love the Patreon approach. So Patreon.com/AndroidFaithful. There you can contribute and be part of the Android Faithful. And we really appreciate it. And I don't know if there's much else beyond that. We do the show every Tuesday evening. Make sure and subscribe, send us email, contact@androidfaithful.com, and all the things. Just find us. We're everywhere. And we're always faithful to Android. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
All right.
Vamp.
You timed it well. It was good. Good job. All right. So picking an episode title, TikTok Kabuki Theater, Hold the Reservation, TikTok Kabuki Theater, Circling the Magic Portal, Honor Ride or Die with Porsche, Hotel Howl Studio. Well, actually, Apple is the problem. An appeasement for Google for Pixel 4a, vicissitudes of social media, Galaxy Unpacked, Samsung on track, Not Nothing No More, Motorola's mid-range monsters, my Chromebook is bewitched, leaky Perplexity peaky, TikTok copycat apps, and the belt clip comes for us all.
I like that one. That's my favorite. But
TikTok Kabuki Theater did get the most number of votes.
It did.
Oh, TikTok. Oh.
Yeah, I don't. Do we do that? Do we go TikTok? I might as well go TikTok. Should we, Jason? Because we'll do Samsung next week, right? Or do we want Samsung in the title to get traffic from Unpacked this week?
I don't know. I don't know how much of that traffic really comes from.
I know. Let's do TikTok. We'll do it.
I think it's
All right. Fine. Cool. Well, Patrick, thank you so much for joining us. You are the best. It's so good.
Patrick.
I love creating content with you. I miss it.
Thank you.
I cite you constantly whenever we're talking about televisions and all the guidance you've given me over the years.
I am honored. At this point, I've finally got I think I've got enough of a handle on the whole marketing lifestyle, at least the marketing lifestyle in the organization I'm in, to start making podcasts and videos again. We'll see how that goes. It's been an interesting shift.
Yeah, I can imagine. All right, well, we're going to wrap up this stream. Patrick, hang out because we need to get your upload. But I know, Jason, you've got to go prep for Samsung. So, but thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll be back next week. I won't be here, but Jason and Michelle will be, and maybe another guest. So,
I'm sure I'll find someone.
We'll see you next time.
Bye, you guys. Good to see you.